Okay, Jason, let's go over another subject. Now, this whole course is for guys who want to be buyers or who want to be flippers
All right.
or investors.
Okay.
Basically somebody who's living in a house and he's thinking, hey, I need to make a business out of buying homes.
Sure.
Now, as a home inspector, I go back to a guy that I know, uh, and I can even kind of sort of name him. His name is Priz. Cool guy. He's almost as cool as Jason. And he would tell you that he was the dumb brother. And his smart brother, got a nice degree and got a job, and he is presently making the kind of money that you make when you have a job.
Okay.
And Priz, on the other hand, he followed his dad's example and he bought a house. And then he bought another one. And about 10, 15 years ago, he was up to about 12. And probably by now, he's up to, who knows. I did an inspection on an entire complex for him, and he was bringing other guys in. So his number is well beyond 20, and it might be 100. And of the dumb brother and the smart brother, guess which is the one that goes on vacations all the time, wherever he wants, whenever he wants
You're
to?
gonna go with the dumb brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the point I want to make is you don't have to be the guy who goes and hunts that perfect house, and knocks down the price to the perfect price where you can make a whole bunch of money when you flip it after you pay the realtor fees, the lender fees, blah, blah, blah.
Flipping is something you should really look into because the total cost isn't often realized until it's too late.
Uh-huh. And by looking into, you mean research.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty easy to see what the house will cost you as far as purchase price. And as a buyer in Utah, that's pretty much what you pay. Real estate commissions are paid by the seller. There's no transfer taxes. You're going to be pretty close. I'll pay you this much for the house. That's really what it's going to cost. Now, if you're going to get a loan, there's some fees there that you could look into, but those should be able to be disclosed up front with a loan estimate from your lender. The things that you don't know are what needs to be repaired or how much are those repairs going to cost. If you're going to do them yourself, how much time is that going to cost you from work? How much experience do you have making this type of repairs? Do you really know how much the materials and labor will cost?
Right, and we have the section on inspectors. That's another segment. What I would like you to go over is how can it be a win if you just buy and hold versus how can it be a win if you buy and flip?
So when you say buy and hold, how long is that holding?
Well, let's talk about that. What are the regulations? If I were to, is the 1 year mark a sort of a magic number?
That is a magic number.
Talk to me about that.
There's one more magic number of 90 days.
Uh-huh.
If you buy a home and you sell it in under 90 days, FHA loans won't work.
Okay.
So from the day you acquire it, from the day a name goes on title to the day an offer is written, there must be 90 days in between there.
Okay.
And then the loan can start. So that's one. If you're doing it under 90 days, you're excluding all your FHA buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of that. And then we're going to go, but in that magic year mark,
Uh-huh.
we're doing, I totally forgot the name of it.
So, yeah, while you're coming up with that, I had some friends who held a home and who had a home. They had a bunch of equity, and then they came into a place where they needed the equity, so they put up and they weren't able to buy another home, so they put the home up for sale, and they couldn't sell, and they couldn't sell, and they were stressing out and dying, and then it turns out that they sold the home like 2 days after that 1 year mark, or they would have had to have paid a bunch of capital gains.
Right. So it's a short-term or a long-term investment.
Okay.
That's the categories that fall into, and it's a calendar year. It's on your tax forms. They ask, how long did you own this property? And you just fill it out, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing is if you're going under a year, that's income. That's capital gains. If you're going over a year, it changes. And talk to your CPA of what those changes are and what the implications are. But you're taxed much less on long-term investments rather than short-term.
So what I'm gathering is, yeah, if you want to be the flipper like you see on TV, you know, you're buying a home, you're making it gorgeous, and then you're reselling.
Sure.
There are some costs associated with that are not the case when you buy and hold. And by hold, I'm going to say at least a year and 1 day,
Yeah.
because then you're not paying capital gains, etc. Now, and my daughter was just talking to me about the home that she's in. She's only been in it for a few months, and with this market, now she's got a whole bunch of equity, and she wants to upsize.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's got renters in the basement that are paying most of her mortgage, and that's awesome, but she can hear the renters and they can hear her. And so she wants to do a whole bunch more insulation in between the two living spaces in her next house. And so she is concerned about, you know, I'm going to sell this home, I'm going to make so much money, am I going to have to pay taxes on that? And, you know, that's not necessarily in the same category as a flip.
It depends. Well, because there's different ways to do it. So I'm not giving tax advice. Talk to your CPA.
Right.
But as the tax law reads, as I understand it, as long as you occupy a home 2 of the most recent 5 years as your primary residence, that's your primary residence. There's no capital gains that you're paying on an increase up to a certain dollar amount.
Okay.
And it's typically double if you share that residence and gain with your spouse. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is if you're moving that income to a like kind thing, just like if you're rolling over your 401k, if you withdraw money from a retirement account and put it in another retirement account, you're actually not cashing out that money, right? So if you sell a home and buy a home, you're actually not realizing those gains.
Right.
Okay. So either you own it 2 years and you occupy it as your primary residence for 2 years, and then you cash it out.
And then you don't get mashed.
Right. Or you move the money that you made in that home into another home.
Got it.
So it defers that.
And that's if you are living in that home. What if, let's say I was living in a home and then I go buy another one,
Sure.
and I don't necessarily want to flip because I'm too lazy for that.
Sure.
But maybe I hold it for a year, and then I put it up for sale. I want to say, what are the tax implications? And you're going to tell me, talk to my accountant.
I am. Because you're getting into splitting hairs there. So they've got years that you could have, how recently you've lived in it. The 2 of the 5 years. And yeah, that's something where you talk to your CPA.
Okay. And the CPA, obviously, you know, we've got a segment on professionals, your team that you need to have around you.
Yeah.
Your lender, your inspector, your realtor, and your accountant.
Yeah.
And if you think you can go it alone, there's a price to pay.
Right, right. And you can do it. The thing is, and I see this a lot on a purchase contract. Like, I've read a purchase contract. I teach on purchase contract. I understand a purchase contract. I can do my own purchase contract as a non-licensed real estate agent, like someone who's not a professional. I could actually do a contract on a napkin or a piece of paper. Real estate agents in Utah have to use the Utah State Real Estate Purchase Contract, the REPC, right? But any workable contract will work. So 2 parties, property, thing of value that exchanges, and they agree on it, boom, you've got a contract. That's all that has to happen. Now, there's a lot of verbiage and language written into the contract, the Utah State Purchase Contract, that makes it a very good document to use. But yeah, just like you can read tax code, you can do your own home inspection, but if you don't know those little things to look for, it can have a big expense. Big.
I had a guy yesterday who called me up. I am a structural engineer. He wanted a structural engineer because a home inspector had said, okay, the following is a structural problem. And he was like, well, I'm going to have to pay you, and then I'm going to have to talk to these structural peer companies. And from experience, there's been multiple occasions where I show up to a house and the structural peer companies have already been out. They want $80,000. And I look out, I go to the place and I'm going, your problem isn't the foundation. And that's what the peer companies would fix.
Yeah.
It would have been $80,000 wasted. This guy wanted to save my fee. So wherever he is, whatever his problem is, he saved my fee.
Yeah. Yeah, spend 80,000 to save 400.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's what I would have you be aware of. You know, you don't just have to be the flipper. You can be the guy who buys and holds, and in many cases, that can be a very successful strategy.
Especially with what appreciation is doing lately. Especially in the Utah market, it's hard to flip at all because you've got a lot of highly skilled, overeducated people. So your competition's pretty good, but you can't fight against appreciation, depreciation. And right now, we have a lot of appreciation going on.
A whole lot of appreciation.
Yeah, tens of thousands in months.
Yes.
So.
Exactly what my daughter was dealing with. Thank you, sir.